Greetings, YouTube. At the time of this filming, someone recently pointed out a flaw in this design. On this particular design, I used an old, some kind of souvenir hockey stick to make a shaft, and then I wrapped it with this just to see if I liked the way it looked, and I kind of like it the way it looks. I should have done it tighter than that. I should have made sure it was a little tighter, but you know, live and learn. And I bolted this on with resistance but no through holes. So there's no through holes through this at all, other than the one that came with it. I believe this blade may be some kind of industrial carbine blade. I'm not positive. It's not designed for a weed whacker of any kind. So the problem is that I got these two here and this here. Now if you thrust with this, you're good, no problem. If you swing and impact with either of these points, you're also good. If you get stuck on this point or this point and you pull, that's going to come loose. I should have put this bolt here and I screwed up. I don't know why I screwed up. I thought I was smarter than that, but apparently I'm not. So someone pointed this out to me and they were correct that it is in fact wrong. So I'm going to repair that. Now I could just move the hole from here to here, but that would be kind of boring. And it would kind of undermine the structural integrity of this handle even further. And I may find a use for this at some point in the future, who knows. I will probably not find a use for these bolts. They're probably too short at this point, but we'll see. I'm going to take them apart and see if I can reuse them for something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this square shaft, because I don't think I've ever used a piece of square stock tubing to make a shaft before. This is 3/4 inch square stock tubing. I don't remember what I originally got it for something I made. It might have been a craft project in the past. I don't know what it was. But I've already got lines on here. You may not be able to see them, but I've got a center line on both sides and a cross section here, which I'm going to punch. And then I'm going to drill through holes. Now, the problem is I'm going to be using my my broaching bits, which are awesome, but I can't go through this piece of tubing because the broaching bit shaft is too large. So I'm going to have to go through both sides here, then flip it over, and then go through both sides of the other side. The smallest broaching bit I have is 5/16, but I'm using a 1/4 inch bolt, so the little wiggle room is fine. So if the holes don't line up with each other perfectly, it works fine for me. And once I get that done, then I need to take some measurements and figure out where I'm going to want to put a relief hole. Because I want a relief hole here all the way through. I'll do it the same way I did with the 2 holes for the bolts. Because I want to drill a slot. And when I drill the slot, I want to have some place for having expansion, so when I squeeze, the metal will squeeze onto the blade, and that will act as the expansion joint. And I need to figure out how far down I want that hole to be, so that I have the blade going in deep enough so that I can fit this wedge inside here, because I don't want to cut this. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to drill 2 holes. And the initial one is going to be 1 inch off here, or maybe 3/4 of an inch. Maybe we'll figure out. I'll see where I like better. And then once I get that one and everything else done, I'll put the blade in, bolt the thing together, and then I will drill the second hole through here with a hand drill. And the reason I'm going to do that is that way I don't have to measure the second hole. Because trying to get holes to line up can be a pain in the butt. But doing it this way means it'll be exactly where I want it to be, and I don't have to worry about trying to line it up, because it's just I'm gonna drill through it, I'll put the bolt through, and it will be done, and I'll never have to take the blade out again. And then I will do a wrap down here, so that it has a nice grip, because it is a little on the narrow side. Again, it's only 3/4 of an inch in diameter. I'm thinking of putting a lanyard on this as well. We'll see how that goes. Alrighty, so the first step's going to be to disassemble this thing, and then to start drilling that piece of square stock tubing. And remember, when you're drilling, make sure everything is clamped in place. Be safe. You don't want to be holding this piece of tubing when you're trying to drill a hole, because if that catches, it's going to spin, and if you're lucky, it'll spin in a direction that you aren't in. If you're not lucky, it's time to go to the doctors. So here are all the holes that I need drilled. So a through hole for the expansion joint, and both through holes for the bolts, which I already have set up. And I found I have 2 nuts that have built-in washers. That makes my life so much easier. And my first hole didn't actually show up where I wanted it. I thought I put it in the middle and it wasn't in the middle. So this one is actually in the center, which is where I want it. This one is not. So there's going to be an extra hole in my blade. Again, this is a post-apocalyptic theme. I don't care. Now I'm going to drill one more hole down here because I want to put a lanyard in here, and I'm going to wrap it, and I don't want the wrap to be what's holding the lanyard in place. So I'm going to pass the cord through the hole and then wrap it. So the lanyard will come out like this, and that will actually be how I hang this thing up for storage, but it also means if you want to use the lanyard, you can use a lanyard. So that's going to be what I do here, just so the cord has some place to attach other than just pure friction from the wrap, which is not going to be great because you can't have it too tight. If you make it too tight, I can't tighten it. I can't get the cord out to make the wrap function. So there's a delicate balance. Tight enough to look good and tight enough to feel good, but not so tight I can't get the cord out. So I want to put a hole here, and I'm going to do that now. I don't really need to measure that. I'm just going to stick prick a hole there, a mark, and then I'll drill it. And that's going to be where the lanyard goes through. So I have the hole down here drilled, and now I have a line set up. So I'm going to come in here and drill cut a vertical slot with my angle grinder. And then I'm going to back up and I'm going to cut through the top section first. And then I'll roll it over and do the bottom section, trying to get this to be as centered as possible. If I do it in two halves, I think I'm better chance of getting it centered. But I'll start with a nice vertical cut here so that the two sides will be in line at least to start with. So I need to put my headphones on and put my gloves on before I start cutting things. Alrighty, so there is the slot. I made the slot with my my cutoff blade, which of course is very narrow. It's one of these. Let me show you. I mean, that's pretty darn narrow, and it's much thinner than that. So I had to then nibble away both sides of that slot with my with that same blade until I got the slot basically both centered and wide enough to accept the blade. So now I'm going to put the blade in here, bolt this in to a semi-permanent condition, so that I can then drill the last hole by hand with a power drill. And then that will be the last step of this build. As far as the construction is concerned, then it will be wrapping, and hopefully I can get that lanyard to look good. So there we have the finished build itself. I still need to do the handle. That's next. Do the wrap rather. But I cut the bolts off and give them a little bit of a sand so that they look a little smoother. That's nice and centered. I like the way they came out. It's got a really nice feel. I have to freely admit that this feels much more solid than the last one when it was on the wood. This really feels like it's not going any place. And I like the spacing I got in here. That came out nice. I think this is a 3-inch spacing on this, I believe. Yeah, it's a 3-inch spacing on this. But just roughly, yeah, I eyeballed that distance, and it came out pretty close. After all these years of making measurements, I'm not bad at eyeballing distances like that. When I used to set up drills at a company called Cushcraft, where we used to make, I guess they still do. They're in another state now, but I used to work there, and I would set up drills to make antennas. So I would be drilling aluminum tubing, and I could use a standard tape measure, like that standard tape measure, and I could get the holes to be plus or minus 0.10 of an inch, because I'd just done it so many damn times. And that's how good I got. That's how good you get when you just keep doing something over and over again. You get to the point where you can just do your job the way it's supposed to be done, at least in theory. Alrighty, so going to now clamp this down and onto my table, and then start the wrap. And here we go. I was not a clever lad. I don't know how to. I could not figure out a way to get this to be part of the wrap, so it's just here. But it's a functional lanyard. That's all I care about. So there we go. That's the finished product. It has a hole in it that it doesn't need, but you know, that's life sometimes. It's a post-apocalyptic build. I'm okay with that. But this is a much better handle. It has a much better feel. It really does have a nice heft to it. The grip is very comfortable. Again, this is a 3/4 inch shaft, so I put this thing on here. This is about a 1 inch diameter now, roughly, and or so. And I've got medium-sized hands. I have a hard time finding gloves because I have weirdly shaped hands. My fingers are short, but my palms are kind of normal sized. So I often go for men's smalls, like those work gloves I'm using right there. Those are men's smalls, and those fit me pretty well. But sometimes I've actually had to purchase women's larges to get gloves that fit my hand properly for the winter. But there you go. There's my Star Pick upgrade. So it's gone from having a wooden handle to having this nice tubular steel handle. So now it's outside for some pictures, and then this build is done. Please, if you get a chance, check out my DeviantArt and my Instagram.